and welcome back to another episode of SaiOS. So hopefully you've been following along this series, this SaiOS series that I've been having for the past few weeks, past few episodes. Last episode we were taking a look at the daily tracking template within my review cycles, which is in my alignment zone, pyramid, in the Sai operating system. That sounds like a lot, and it is, because I want to get very granular, very detailed, very specific, very intentional about what I'm doing, how I'm organizing, how I'm operating on a day-to-day basis. Not only a day-to-day basis, but on a week-to-week basis. So that'll be the focus of this episode. So I'll be taking a look at the weekly review in this episode. So going from the time period of daily tracking, which we went through last episode, now up to a weekly level view. So for the weekly reviews, I'll title it, the nomenclature and system that I've settled on right now is the year with a bar, then the quarter, then a bar, then the month, a bar, and then a week. A pipe bar. It's the it's the key above the enter on the keyboard, which has the forward slash, I believe, or the backslash, whichever one. And so right now it's 20. So this, one of these weeks, 2021 pipe, Q2 pipe, month 4 pipe, week 1. So that's the current week I'm in right now when I'm recording this. So within this template, within this page template of the weekly review, I'll have the different dates. So in Notion, you can have, date fields in here in the pages. And so you can have just a single date, or you can have a range of dates. So for this week, for the week one, for the day ones, I obviously have just that one day. For everything above that, the week, month, quarter, year, I have a range of dates. And so I go from Monday to Sunday as the week. So for this week, I'll be the current week that I'm in recording this. April 5th is a Monday, and April 11th is a Sunday. So that's what I count as the week. So that's, so April 5th was the start of my second quarter and not April 1st. Not a joke. And then I have a relation in Notion, which is kind of a way to tag different databases. So this field, this month relation, is making the connection between this week that I'm in right now of April 5th through April 11th, the first week of this month, to the April monthly review page. And I'll explain why that's important. And the same functionality I have another relation with the daily tracking database, which I went through in the last episode. And so I have all the pages, all the daily tracking pages of April 5th, April 6th, April 7th, etc., which are tagged into this weekly review page. And again, so I'll explain the purpose of this. But continuing on, I have a focus for the week. Like I was saying in my purpose by time period section in my alignment zone, the weekly level, I brand it as focus. So for this first week of April that I'm recording this in, the focus is to lay the foundation for enhanced content. So hopefully I'm doing that right now, recording all these podcast episodes, going deep diving into what I did for the quarterly circle, as well as my life operating system. So this is the only thing that I actually fill out at the beginning of the week. the dates, the month relation, and the focus for the week. Everything else is either filled in throughout the week automatically, or I come in at the end of the week during my weekly review to fill in. So what that means is, I'll go through the former first. So how are they being filled automatically? Through that relation, like I mentioned, with the daily tracking database. So with the dates that I mentioned of April 5th, April 6th, April 7th, April 8th onwards, with each of those pages being rolled up and being related to this weekly review page, all the information that I choose to have that's being rolled up from the daily level to the weekly level. So all those check boxes of my habits, like setting the intention, doing a cold shower, doing Shambhavi, drinking celery juice, doing visualization meditation, writing in my freeform journal, all those habits I'm looking at right now as I'm recording this episode of all the check boxes that have happened throughout the week. So I'm 4 days in right now, and I see 0 to 4 check boxes based on the number of times I've done it throughout the week. So how many times have I done a cold shower this week? I can quickly take a look. I didn't do it Monday, and I've done it the last 3 days of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Through this simple relation that I've made from the weekly to the daily. So I see all my daily tracking results in one view here, which is very convenient. So everything is a roll-up here. It's called a roll-up function within Notion. So that's how all these daily tracking habits and practices are being filled in automatically at a weekly level. And I can quickly check at the end of the week how I've done. And of course I can check in throughout the middle of the week and throughout the course of the week if I wanted as well. So in addition to these roll-up fields, and so in addition to those check boxes, I can also roll up numbers like how much sleep time I've had on a daily basis, and then I'll have a sleep average. So far I've slept 6, 4.5, and 7 hours this week. So sleep average about 5.875. A diet score of 7, 8, and 7, which comes out to about 7.3. An output score of 80, 75, 70, which the average is 75. So I can create these averages and see how I'm progressing on a weekly level, throughout the week. And as you can imagine, I do something similar when I roll up from the weekly to the monthly level. So that's one of the very useful functionalities in Notion that I'm a huge fan of. And then in addition to these roll-up fields, similar to what I do in the daily tracking, I also have habits and practices that I want to be keeping track of on a weekly basis. I don't do these every day, so it doesn't really make sense for me to track them on a daily basis, but it does make sense for me to track them on a weekly basis. Now, actually, some of these I need to actually refresh. And that's one of my projects this quarter. But some of them are to practice the flute, which I have not done in a year. So I actually need to get to that at some point. But one is applying a face mask, a facial. Hashtag self-care. Another are different types of meditations that I want to do, like the cleansing meditation, a samatha, a vipassana, a walking meditation, chakra meditation. All these things I want to mix into my practice, daily and weekly practices, but it doesn't make sense for me to track them on a daily basis. Since there's so many, I can't expect, nor should I be disappointed if and when I don't do this on a daily basis, right? So I'll be content, and my goal is to do one of these different types of meditation, once every 1 week or 2 weeks. And so on the month level, I can see how many times did I do this one type of meditation throughout that month, let's say. Right, but we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. And then there's different roll-ups for text as well, in addition to text checkboxes and to numbers. And so I can see the 3 best things that I filled out throughout the day on the daily tracking template page. The 3 worst things that I filled out, that I did. Any gratitude statements that I filled in, all those gratitude statements, 3 gratitude statements every day are rolled up into this weekly review page. So when I'm doing my weekly review, I have one view of all my gratitude statements for the entire week. And then within each, in between each of these roll-up fields of 3 best things, 3 worst things, gratitude, improvements, 6-time book improvements, and more, I have text fields where I can summarize in my own words on a weekly level what my accomplishments were, what my disappointments were, what I'm grateful for, what improvements I can make. And so these text fields I label within the template. They're labeled as week X, and I change it at the beginning of the week to whatever week it is of the month. So week 1, week 2, colon, and then at the end of the week when I'm doing the weekly review, I'll summarize those accomplishments and disappointments and improvements, etc. So for, gratitude, there may be a theme among some of the great gratitude statements that I've written throughout the day and throughout the week, and I'll summarize that. Maybe I've talked to my manager, maybe I've talked to some friends throughout the week, and so that individual day, I may be grateful for speaking to that friend or that person or that coworker. And then over the course of the week, when I'm doing the review, I'm grateful for the wonderful people that I get to relate with and have created a deeper connection with. And so same thing with improvements, accomplishments, disappointments, etc. And then, so that's only the fields within the page. And since this is a page in Notion, I can go through, so that's just one piece of it. Then there's the actual page, piece of it. So in this template, I have several different things actually. This might take a while. So one is the action items that I've completed this week. So I have a toggle view of all the action items that I've completed this week. And so I'll go through my action items database in another episode. But I can view all these action items that I've completed this week. Then I go through my alignment and affirmations. So on a weekly level, instead of just filling out the purpose, mission, and values that I talked about in the previous episode, I'm revisiting this on a weekly basis, if not more often, but at least on a weekly basis, so that I'm constantly reminded what my purpose is, what my mission is, what my values are, so that I'm constantly living by these aspirations. And I view the affirmations as well for the specific type of person that I aim to be. And of course, I will do a episode on affirmations as well. But I review these high-level things which are in my first and top and middle levels of my alignment pyramid. And then I go into the action level. I view the calendars. I review the last 2 weeks on the calendar if anything needs a follow-up or anything, as well as I review the upcoming 3 weeks on the calendar. So ideally it's 3 weeks. Most of the time I just do one, just to make sure I'm good for the week. So I'll move any tasks around that have been placed in this week, and I'll either schedule it for the day if it seems to be the right day, or if I need to move it out further, or maybe it's more important so I do it that Monday or Tuesday. I can change up priorities, etc. So I have a calendar view, and these are all toggles or views within the actual page, so I don't need to leave the weekly review page at all. All that I've described so far is on one page. I just am scrolling down through my phone right now. And when I'm doing it, I just scroll through on my laptop. So functionality is amazing. And then I review the different projects that I'm working on. I review the content center, my content creation center, which will have the different pieces of content like blogs, vlogs, podcast, newsletter, etc. If there's any changes, if I need to make updates, maybe I haven't updated that in a few days, and I'll need to adjust things from scheduled to post as a status of the piece of content to published now. Or if I don't get to it, I'll change it to scratched, where I don't do the piece of content anymore. Then I review the projects on a timeline level view, as well as review any action items within the projects if I need to add any, remove any, consolidate any tasks within the projects, and then adjust the timelines of the projects. If I'm falling behind on some projects, I can move them out so that so I can accommodate for the projects in the coming week. Then I update my habits and practices by looking at my 6-time book habit page, which of course I'll do an episode on. So intentionally bringing in different practices, the different things that I mentioned in the previous episode of the 6-time book areas of focus of time and energy investment, effective communication, and compassion. Those different things of, eating practices or phone usage or body language, stuff like that. I decide in this weekly review what for the next week am I going to be focusing on within that area of time and energy, compassion, and effective communication. And then finally, so that's the majority of it. And then finally, I have a few check boxes as I'm going, just saying that planning is done for the next week. I'll enter in the daily tracking template page for that day that the planning is complete. So what I mentioned in the daily tracking page of that review field, that's where I'll just put in, weekly review complete. And then I'll add in the next week, the new week page in the weekly review template, in the weekly review database for that next week. So right now I'm on, week 1, 2021, Q2, month 4, week 1. At the end of the week, I'll be doing this full review, and at the end I'll be adding the week 2 one for April. And then within that, I'll set the focus for that next week. And so that is my weekly review. So again, I went in depth, line by line, item by item, field by field of how I approach things on a weekly basis, how I'm setting myself up, hopefully for success, and envisioning the person that I want to be, seeing how I've done on a daily basis, and how I can keep on improving. Right. Just scrolling back up. There are 2 fields that I do fill in at the weekly review. One is the status in relation to the month. So I'll have done set the theme for the month, or set some goals, what does success look like for the month, and I'll set, a status, like where I am in that week in relation to the month. So either on track, at risk, or completely off track. So I can get a quick glimpse of how I'm doing throughout the month. And then an effectiveness score. So just a 1 to 10, 10 being the most effective, 1 being the least effective, of what my effectiveness throughout that week was. And most of the time, they align with the average of my daily scores that I've aggregated throughout the week. And so it's not the exact average sometimes, but usually it's pretty close, within, plus or minus 1 or so. So anyway, so that's a look at a very granular level of my weekly review. And so we'll be continuing this series by taking a look at, the next level up, obviously, is the monthly review. So if you're interested, check out the next episode, check out the previous episodes in this series of the SaiOS My Life operating system, and I'll hopefully see you on the next few episodes. Thanks for listening to another episode of Sai's Eyes. I'll see ya when I see ya.